Welcome to Paranormal or Reality. On today's video, we explore some ghost stories from around the country that will keep you up at night. Now make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Let's begin. A few years ago, my husband found a 3-bedroom bungalow that was cheap to rent. The owner who inherited it was a friend of my husband. This guy's father had passed away the previous year, and the house was sitting empty that whole time. The owner didn't want to live in it. He didn't even bother returning to the house to remove all the furniture, clothing, or belongings from it either. I didn't even get a chance to see the place before we moved in. My husband sprung it on me last minute after our apartment lease was up. It looked okay from the outside. The windows were dark, but of course, no one lived there. Once my husband opened the door and switched on the light in the foyer, I felt that this place wasn't empty. I felt like something was in there watching us right away. I knew the original owner passed away, so I just figured that I was just spooking myself that first evening. The whole house was full of furniture, knickknacks, personal items, clothing. It was dark and dusty. I was depressed looking at it all. The part of the deal for cheap rent was that we had to clean it all. We got a truck and cleaned out the majority of the house. We kept some things like the new couch, armchairs, TV, and end tables. We kept the master bedroom furniture in there because the mattress was new, the bedding and furniture was new. It hadn't been used yet. My husband traveled for work. He left me there alone, and that is when I experienced things that were odd. That feeling of being observed didn't go away. I stayed in the front rooms because there was better light there, and it's where our belongings were. The back part of the bungalow was always dark. The first thing I noticed was scratching sounds in the wall. It's Texas, so it could have been any animal doing that. I heard what sounded like walking along the ceiling. I remembered one day I was watching a movie. There was this loud stomping up there. I was distractedly thinking to myself, "Damn, the neighbors are loud." Then I remembered there wasn't any upstairs neighbors. I ran outside to see what was on the roof. Nothing. It really sounded like heavy footsteps crossing from one side of the house to the other. I was nocturnal back then. I stayed up all night either watching live streams or painting in the living room. I was in my bedroom watching an old black and white movie on TV this particular night. Outside, I could see the pink dawn through the curtains. That is when I heard knocking. Just 2 sharp knocks in the upper left side of my bedroom wall over the bed. The bedroom was at the left corner side of the house. I wondered what it was. Then all along, that side of the wall was a swooshing sound. I pictured someone using a leafy branch just making swirls with it on the other side. Just a scratchy swirling sound. I hopped out of bed to see what the heck that was. It had to be people. I ran over to the outside of the house, and there was no one. They could have run away, I guess. It was so odd to me. This happened a few more times before I finally answered that knock with a loud, "Hello?" The knock itself sounded like a person's knock, intentional to get attention, not like a tapping or something bouncing off the wall. It was 2 distinct knocks. There was a hesitation, then it knocked 3 times. I asked, "Who's there?" Then the knocking started going hard and fast. It sounded angry and loud. I took off to check the outside again. Nothing. Nobody was there. I went back inside, back to the bedroom. The frantic loud knocking was now accompanied by that swirling sound, and it moved from the left side of the wall to the ceiling. That scared me. I called my friend, and then she told me that I was not supposed to ever answer the knock or go outside, for 2 reasons. If it had been a person scaring me, I could have been hurt. Second, whatever that was, it was bad, and I interacted with it. It went on for nearly 30 minutes. I left the bedroom to go sit shaking in the living room while I chatted with my friend. She wouldn't accept any pictures or videos of it either. After that occurrence, I made sure to ignore all noises. Just act like everything was okay. The activity died down. We painted the back room, but it didn't seem to make it brighter. It stayed gloomy. When we attempted to sleep in the master bedroom with the ensuite at the back of the house, neither one of us could sleep. I was facing the bedroom door, and several times when I woke up, that door would be open again. I felt as though someone was staring at us from the kitchen each time. It was also very cold and uncomfortable in there. We moved away after a year. Hello, I'm new to reaching out to people here, but I think I'm starting to get annoyed. I'm 20 female. Around December of last year, my father decided to get a one-way ticket to his native country. And I, being a university student with a job, stayed at home. In my home, I live alone with my father because my parents divorced when I was younger. I lived at my mother's house until I grew older and decided to move to my father's. There was a whole thing with sleep paralysis before this. Back to the day that my dad left, I went back home to my puppy. He was known to go to random spots and start to growl. It started to get dark, so I decided to sleep in the living room while watching an anime. The layout of the living room is downstairs and the sofa is set towards the wall backing the stairs. So I set the dog bed near me on the floor and watched the show. There was a point where something funny was happening, and I started to laugh, but I could hear a girl laughing with me. I have younger sisters, so I could compare the laugh to theirs, except they don't live here. I paused the show and kept on hearing a laugh. I decided not to move and pressed play, hoping nothing else would happen. I fell asleep a little later. Later that month, I started to experience weirder things. I would hear noises. It would vary between things dropping, sounds of people walking, or people saying something in an almost whisper. One time, when I was alone in the house, I heard something thumping and thumping upstairs. I got irritated because I was doing my homework and screamed, "Shut up." It stopped. I started questioning how often this would actually work, so I tried it again. My friend came over to my house one day, and while I was telling her about the situation, it sounded like someone was repeatedly throwing things down to the floor. My friend looked at me wide-eyed, scared. But I was used to weird things happening at this point. I looked up the stairs into the dark and said, "Stop. You're scaring visitors in my home." It stopped. My friend decided to leave a little after that due to being scared. I couldn't blame her. Moving to February, I was cleaning my bedroom and listening to YouTube when I heard non-stop footsteps outside. I immediately paused my video and listened. There were continued footsteps. I ran towards my window, and that's when the steps stopped. I went to bed and decided to think about what had happened, which soon turned into me just looking at YouTube videos. I started to watch a YouTube channel that talked to spirits, and we could even communicate weirdly. I said out loud, "Why can't you use your words like them? It would be easier to talk." Then my TV seemed to pause and restart. I got irritated getting up, unplugging, and replugging the TV. I went back to sit down and put the video again, forgetting what happened. I once again saw how easily it was for them to communicate to spirits, so I said, "You do suck. You can't do much, it seems, besides make random noise." That's when the same thing happened to my TV. At this point, I started to connect the dots. I turned off the TV and decided to experiment. I didn't know if it would work because even though I believe in spiritual stuff, I believe everything can have an answer. I started with the rules. 1 tap yes, 2 no, and 5 seconds of silence. I don't know. I started to question if they knew of a friend's cousin who had died. 1 tap. Do you think they are in a better place? 5 seconds. Is she currently okay? 1 tap. Are you a good spirit? 2 taps. I got irritated at this but thought that it was interesting to communicate, even if it was a moment of schizophrenia. Do you want to hurt me? 2 taps. Were you the one outside walking? 1 tap. Are you taking care of me? 5 seconds. I got creeped out and decided to stop that. I said, "Okay, that's all, no more." I kept watching my videos and fell asleep while doing that. This started to happen outside of my home. I started only to hear, but also to see. That's for later if you guys want. Everything started to go to normal when my dad came back. There were no more noises in the house. Now it was only when I was alone in my car coming back from my job or even at my job. I worked the night shift. Back to today. My dad left once again, and it's back. It's been 4 days since my dad left, and it's all back. The noises and voices are all here. I don't want to see them. Last night, a chlorine box on the counter was thrown to the floor, and walking was heard upstairs while I was in the bottom living room. This morning, the chair was moved away from the table to the middle of the kitchen. I didn't do that. I'm missing much information, but I want some answers. I don't care what side you're on. I've gone to my mom's friend whose mother is an actual witch. She says my third eye is open, and they are trying to get help from me. I saw my friend's dead cousin in my dream, trying to get help. My mom's friend says that I attract spirits to come with me. I don't know what to think since I am a person who reasons most of the time, and only feeds into an illusion of the spirit world sometimes. I'm getting tired of this. I want answers, suggestions, anything. I can go into more depth if you guys want. I can tell you about the other stuff that has happened to me. I'm not lying. My friends stopped being my friends at one point because I would talk to them about this. I had to stop myself from telling them. I work as a cleaner in a high school in my town. The school was built somewhere around the 1960s, I believe, and has had a few upgrades. However, most buildings are original and unchanged. The area I am set to clean is a long corridor kind of building. At one end is the hall auditorium, then the drama room, and following after that is 3 classrooms. My area is one of the old original buildings. At night it does get pretty creepy, seeing as it's just a long corridor, and looking down dark creepy hallways is scary. But that's beside the point. Yesterday, at around 7 p.m., I was in a fair rush to get everything done and needed to vacuum my 3 classrooms down the corridor. I dragged my vacuum from my storeroom located in the building next door to the corridor and began taking it to the furthest of the 3 classrooms so I could work my way backwards and lock up as I go. Being in a rush, I wasn't on edge or thinking of creepy things or getting in my head about anything, just wanting to get my work done. As I reached the doorway to the 2nd classroom, an incredibly loud bang sound from inside the room. It was the sound when someone takes 2 hands and slams it against a window. It made me stop in my tracks. I just listened for anything else. Nothing else happened, so I brushed it off and walked inside. I noticed that the source of the noise was that one of the old windows had come unlatched and opened itself. Again, I brushed it off and didn't think much of it. I continued walking down the hallway as I reached the 3rd classroom and began setting up my vacuum. I heard another loud bang from behind me at the entrance to the corridor. This made me a little more concerned, as it couldn't be the window unlatching this time. I was now on edge and walked to the entrance of the corridor where I'd heard the noise, and I kid you not, another very loud bang came from the end of the hallway behind me. This cycle repeated around 2 times of me walking from one end to the other trying to source the noise, then hearing the banging coming from the opposite end to where I was. Mind you, the hallway is around 70 to 80 meters in length, so walking back and forth is a pain. Now I believe in ghosts 100% and have had noises happen in this building before, but nothing quite like this. I decided to speak up and say hello. Also wondered if there were kids outside knocking on the windows being silly. I was standing in the middle classroom. To me, on one of the class windows, the banging sounded. I can't describe how loud it was. I've never genuinely yelped in fear and ran out of a building before. Whatever it was, I feel it was playing with me. As I got more scared, the noises became more apparent and louder, until I was on the brink of tears. There was no one outside to my knowledge, as I was checking out the windows as it was happening. I have work again tonight and am honestly dreading it. Thanks for tuning in. Watch another video if you dare.